Hey everyone, this is Pastor Doug from Westside Christian Church. And if I could just add to last Sunday's message, which was kind of erroneously titled Sin, Righteousness, and Judgment, what I would add is I would go back to that little triad there, sin, righteousness, and judgment. That's what I thought would be the heart of the message. That's why I called it that. As I continued to study that John 16 passage, I realized there were other things going on there as well. There was really the Holy Spirit and what he's doing in the world that was the heart of that message. But if I could have had a little more time, if I could have had 5 more minutes to add some things, I would have gone to that, again, I'm calling it a triad, sin, righteousness, and judgment to come. And I would have tried to explain, I think I did mention, but I would have tried to explain a little further. That is a way to understand the Christian story, but it is not the only way to understand the Christian story. And here's where we get really, really deep, and some of these things might sound a little uncomfortable or something like that. But first of all, we have this thing that I call the Christian story. And again, to a lot of people, story means fiction, fabrication. That's not the case here. Story, as I'm using the term, is that which has a beginning, a middle, and an end. It's a series of events that results in what should be a fairly predictable conclusion. So that could be fiction or nonfiction. In our case, it's nonfiction. It's a true story, but it is a story nonetheless. It's a sequence of events. We want to have some way to describe that story. You know, if you go to look for a movie, I was going to go say if you go to Blockbuster, but that doesn't exist anymore. So if you go to Roku, you go to Prime to look for a movie, you're going to have the horror genre, you're going to have the action genre, the comedy, the drama, the rom-com, whatever. So we have shorthand ways of describing these stories. I think what Jesus gave us there, and what we see repeated in Acts 20:24 by Luke, talking about Paul's teaching, so Paul was in on this too. Jesus was giving a genre of that story, or a summary of that story, and it's a very good summary. There is sin, and we didn't even mention how sin came into the world, but there is sin that came into a perfect world. It is confronted with righteousness, its opposite. Ultimately, there's going to be a judgment, so we have a series of events leading to a predictable conclusion. So that's one good way of telling the story. I could understand, though, if some people looked at that and said, well, I don't like that story, you know. I understand there are some people that don't want to focus on the sin part, for sure. I can understand that. There's some people that maybe don't understand the righteousness part. I think that needs to be a little more emphasized today, but still say, I'm not sure sin, righteousness, judgment is the way that I like to understand the story. Well, the good news here is that is a way, but it's not the only way. There are others. I did say in the message, we could talk about it as love. I mean, that is one other way to describe the story. We know that in the beginning, there was another triad, a trinity, a triunity God, one that's the Father, one that's the Son, and one that's the Spirit. They existed in perfect harmony with each other, and apparently, like all families, they wanted to expand, so they created us to love them and to be loved by them, and things went out of control, so now that family is trying to get us back into loving union once more. So family, love, and reunion, that could be another way to tell the story. If you know me, you know that one of my favorite ways to describe the story comes from Matthew 6, the model prayer, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. That there was this kingdom, there was another power that came in and tried to usurp that kingdom, created a bunch of chaos, but that kingdom is reasserting itself, reestablishing itself. One day it will overcome the opposite kingdom, the evil kingdom, and the good kingdom will be all that there is. So multiple other ways to tell this story. Those are just 3: sin, righteousness, and judgment, the kingdom, the family, love, and reunion. Those are 3 different ways to do it. In my heart of hearts, I wish that I had one set of terms that could unite them all. I'm a cataloger, I'm a classifier by nature. That's what God's made me. So I see all these synonyms, I see all these, somewhat separate ideas, and I want to unite them all in one and give you just, here it is, bam, 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 bam. That's the entire story. That's my desire. I'm not sure that it's ever going to be possible. I'm not even sure it's even good to do it that way. The Father apparently is fine with these synonyms. God is apparently happy to say, okay, sin, righteousness, and judgment works for some people, so that's one way to tell the story. Kingdom works for Doug. That's another way to tell the story. family, love, reunion works for other people. That's another way to tell the story. He apparently is happy to have this multifaceted story that could be described in multiple ways. And one of those ways is sin, righteousness, and judgment to come. So I hope that you enjoyed that message. I hope you enjoyed this a little edition, and I look forward to seeing you again very soon.